Good day and welcome, America and beyond. I'm Tom Donahue for Tom Donahue Reports and the briefing as we tackle the issues in these trying times. Important decisions, they can run it by me, but I'm not making public appearances. You could even do a Zoom once or twice a day. She just immediately got out there. And then, we haven't even gotten to the juicy part. And, everyone's talked about that, but the hug. And she and J.D. Vance have tried to play it down, and then she was talking about how J.D. Vance is so similar to her husband, and she was saying some very strange things that blurred the lines in my view. Later on, she was telling people that were critical, like, well, if you need a hug, I can give you a hug. He ha ha. That was a bad look. And that's the vice president of the United States. I mean, to me, and the black leather pants. Hey, I'm no fashionista, but a conservative Christian woman still in mourning. And I'm not saying that from time to time, a good, decent, conservative Christian woman couldn't wear an outfit like that. Who killed Charlie Kirk? I don't know if we'll ever know. But there is audio and video, and I'll give Candace Owens credit on this, of Charlie Kirk voice recordings that have been uncovered, revealed, where he was becoming very resistant to high-power Jewish donors. And again, when you use the word Jewish, it doesn't mean that all Jews are involved, okay? It doesn't mean that you have to tar and feather because it happens to be Israel or happens to be, Jewish power brokers. I always identify the individuals and less worry about where they're from. Now, if they're foreigners, which Israel would be a foreign entity, then if they're putting Israel first and not America first, then that's a loyalty issue, okay? We can talk about that as well. But he was being pressured, and because he was being critical of some of the policies as it relates to Gaza and the way Israel was seemingly ethnic cleansing the area, okay? And Charlie didn't want to be controlled by anybody. And so Trump is very in lockstep with the state of Israel. It's funny that many of the Trump supporters that were very anti-Jewish, anti-Israel, I'm talking about on the extreme side, always seem to not be so concerned with Trump's allegiance beyond the United States of America, because Trump talks their language on all other things. Trump is the political chameleon. Message of this audience, a message of that audience. He's able to keep these groups tethered together somehow, some way. The whole thing, in terms of the way they took down the tent and the cameras, and just the way this case got wrapped up so quickly, and there were so many questions that were unanswered. Very similar to the assassination attempt on Trump in Pennsylvania. We still don't know. We still don't have all the answers. We don't. That's true. So so there are going to be some of these subjects I want to dig deeper, and I'm going to revisit. I was just kind of giving you a broader, overview of just my gut reaction to some of these things. A grieving widow doing about every media appearance imaginable, and raking in tons of money. They're raising a lot of money, but there's a split occurring because there are forces. Some of the staff members are being questioned and challenged, and they don't like that. They don't want that. And so there does seem to be a government cover-up. There seems to be a Turning Point USA cover-up. And I really think that there needs to be greater transparency as to what people at Turning Point USA knew about Charlie's issues with outside forces wanting to heavily influence, if not control, the messaging, and that the threats defunding them. But I guess Charlie should have been maybe more mindful of where the money was coming from originally, because typically when people donate like that, and you can see that with almost every politician, there are strings attached. But again, a horrific event, tragic. It's just heartbreaking. And I don't know if we'll ever know what really truly happened. But it was an assassination, and in our country, we have lots of assassinations and attempted assassinations. Our government never wants to tell us the truth. Just like Dan Bongino wanted to convince us that Epstein committed suicide in the federal detention center, where there's ample evidence to support that it was not a suicide, it was a homicide. And I've talked about that in my prior podcasts, more specifically focused on the Epstein files, and get to the bottom of what he knew and why he didn't speak out, even though he and Bondi had issues as it relates to the Epstein files. But to resign just because you want to go back to radio because you can make more money and it's not as hard to work, it's more rewarding, I guess, to some degree, that's not good enough. We need to have you debriefed. You need to come clean. You need to explain what you knew and what you still know. I know you might have to redact some of what you would share, or filter some, if it's national security issues. You must have seen enough behind the scenes. I mean, you were the deputy FBI director. How do you not know a lot of these things? And why were you putting out the Trump company line? I don't know why up until this point, it's starting to break now, but why would anyone allow the orange man, the tyrant Trump, to intimidate you? What's so big and bad about Trump that you need to be afraid of Trump, and that you acquiesce, and that you genuflect and bow down to this beast of a man? And I've said the same thing as it relates to Obama, Biden, Clinton. I'm an equal opportunity offender, because what I abide by and what I honor is God, the Bible, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the American way. So there's no man or woman. There's no elected official, appointed official. None of them supersede doing the right thing and honoring truly what we would pledge our allegiance to. And it's certainly not to a person. So, yeah, there's so much more. I feel so inspired and motivated. And I plan to do many more podcasts. And we've got another media venture project that we're very close to announcing. So stay tuned on that. Until we meet again, Tom Donahue. Have a great night. Hi, this is Tom Donahue with Tom Donahue Reports and The Briefing, and also here with the new weekly radio show, Truth Matters, inviting you to visit my website or listen to all my podcasts at TomDonahueReports.com. Streaming also on K-Star Talk Radio Network, TalkStream Live, and of course on your favorite radio station, TomDonahueReports.com. Follow, subscribe, or listen